Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. And listen, this isn't just any other episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Today, we're doing a retrospective. It's the 2022 award show. We're here to break down the madness, the knockouts, the submissions, the new champions, the people who really oohed and awed us and did all of that fun stuff. And you know, breaking it down with me, as always, is the Santa Fe bomber, the New Mexico native himself. AJ, man, we're here to talk about a very impactful year. How are you feeling?
Woo, Derick, I am feeling great, my brother. And you're right, it has been a very impactful year. And even though we took a little hiatus, you know, what was even better was coming back to the show and being able to watch some knockouts, some submissions, like you said, some impactful things that happened throughout the entire year 2022, and some things that I kind of forgot about, man. And I'm excited to cover them with you, Derick. It's good to be back in this seat right here, my brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man, but I'm going to touch on something that you just noted that I think is really important. A year is a long time, right? Especially when we're breaking down fights every single week. So what happens in the beginning of January, February, March might totally get overlooked by what happened in November, December, right? So when it comes down to it, we're going to have to take all of this into consideration. We did have a little bit of help from just consensus picks just across the board, where the entire MMA landscape is like, yeah, these are probably some of the highlights of the year. So we're going to break all of that down. And folks, I do want to just give you a little bit of a recap. We did do a head-to-head championship in 2022, right? It was a fun one. If you want like details and all that good stuff, go check out the last episode where we crowned our champion and whatnot. But you can clearly see we got two belts over here, two-time champ. My man AJ, he's coming strong. He's vying for victory over here. You would say in 2023. I'm gonna ask you before we move forward, AJ, in terms of the competition in and of itself, right? It was hard fought. It was close until the very end. But my question to you is, in 2023, what strategies are going to be changing ultimately, right? You had a fantastic increase from 2021 to 2022. What are you doing different next year to get that belt?
Man, I think the big thing is keeping the pressure on from the jump. I know last year started off strong, had a big lead all the way through about the middle of the year. And then my boy over there, man, came back really strong, Derick. And I think just somehow in that mix, I got to figure out what it was that bumped me off my mojo. I don't know if it was taking more risks or not, but I got to do a little self-analyzing. I think the big thing, though, that's on my mind for 2023 is keeping that accuracy goal that we set last year kind of in mind, man. That 69, the 70% we're shooting for, or that I'm shooting for personally, that right there is going to be the motivation to keep those goals, keep it pumping, and keep that foot on the gas pedal myself. What about you, man? You making any specific tweaks or changes into making it going? Or I mean, you got two belts, so I don't know if you need to change anything up at all, man.
I was gonna say, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? However, we're always striving to be a little bit better, and there was a couple of times where I had the gimme and I went a little too risky to get the biscuit, right? So maybe dialing back on the aggressiveness just a tad bit, but at the end of the day, it's a competition, man. And if you get in the dubs, I got to get on the board too. You know what I'm saying? So listen, it's going to be a fun one, folks. You need to watch out because we're starting fresh next week. That is the start of the 2023 competition. I can either go three-time champ with 3 belts, or my man AJ. He's really hungry, man. I'm actually a little fearful this year, so we'll see what happens.
I'm coming for it, man.
That's
coming
right.
for it, man.
That's right. But we're here not to talk about anything like that. We're here to talk about the actual awards, and we're going to get straight to it. Before we do that, though, I do want to suggest, if you haven't subscribed yet, you should absolutely subscribe right now. But AJ, let me go solo just for a quick second and talk about, folks, I set out a goal. I said, listen, by the end of the year, I want to have X amount of subscribers here on the podcast. My man AJ was just a little more aggressive with it. He said 500. I said 475. Well, guess what, folks? We are at 475 subscribers right here. And what better way to kick off 2023 than to bump that number up? Those are rookie numbers. I want 750 subscribers by the end of this year, minimum, right? That's what I got to say on that one. AJ, before we jump into the awards, what's the goal for this upcoming year? Are we ending it at 750? You going 800? What are you thinking?
Bro, you already know, Derick. I'm a little bit of a reacher. My girl knows I'm a little bit of a button pusher, man. I'm shooting for that big 1,000 mark, man. I'm looking to hit 1,000, doubling up. We had so much growth in between 2021 to 2022 that I feel like it's right there, man. It's for the taking, and why not reach? One of the things that you talked about that resonated most, man. It's actually been a mantra of mine in yoga when I'm struggling, sweating in there, hurting. Dare to be great, strive for greatness, man. Why not shoot for it right there? 1,000 people, 1,000 subscribers, a little bit of a bigger army than we got going right now, just a little bit double size. Sounds really, really good to me, Derick. So 750 minimum, 1,000 is what the goal is for me personally. Man, that's the biggest thing for me, man. How you feeling?
I like that. So folks, you heard the man. go subscribe if you haven't yet, right? But without any further ado, we don't need to talk about any of this stuff anymore. Let's jump into our first category, my man. We're going to be breaking down the knockout of the year. Let's talk about it. All right, AJ, so check out the people that we got up on here, man. We got Demetrious Johnson knockout over Adriano Moraes. We got Michael Chandler front kicking Tony Ferguson into the oblivion. Molly McCann, Leon Edwards, Zhang Weili, all with their own set of finishes that were pretty fantastic across the board. And I want to kind of go through one by one before we actually break down who our picks are. And folks, spoiler alert, they're not all going to be consensus picks right here. So first and foremost, my man, you notice one trend. There's one basically knockout here that's not UFC related. The majority of this stuff is all going to be UFC, but you have to take into consideration Demetrious Johnson versus Adriano Moraes, the second fight, the rematch, right? I mean, Mighty Mouse, he loses. This is something that we're not used to seeing, right? He gets hit with that knee, that grounded knee that you can do in one championship, no problem. But what does he do? He comes back, gives him the right cross, follows it up with a flying knee himself, and puts him out to pasture, my man. In terms of just like a knockout in and of itself, right? 125 pounds, flyweights over here, man. You got to say that's pretty damn impressive. Am I right?
I think one of the more impressive things about it, Derick, is when he catches in the right hand, Moraes, is moving back. Moraes.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, Moraes and Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, Moraes, excuse me. Demetrious hits Moraes. Moraes falls back into the cage, and Demetrious is able to see the momentum coming back and meet him with the flying knee, man. Right. And to do that at the age, as well as with the history of the fight and all the mental things that are going on with this being the second fight, man, shows Demetrious Johnson is still on his game, still at one of the pinnacles of the sport, man. And I think there's an amazing inclusion into this category.
And I think there's also something about it that you're out there fighting in Singapore, right? You have a different audience. Everything feels different. The vibe is different. The mood is different. And I bet every single day the UFC is like, God damn, why did we trade Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren? I can't believe it. But it is what it is right there, bro. Listen, let's talk about another one. Another one that's obviously like the front runner, man. If you really look across the board, everybody is pretty much hailing this as the knockout of the year. And for a good measure, man. You have Michael Chandler, who is just an explosive man, explosive athlete, right? And he does something to Tony Ferguson that we just haven't seen before. And for a lot of people, I think that's why that's knockout of the year. When you front kick somebody and you face plant El Kukui, right? The dude who's the boogeyman, the dude who just has indomitable pressure, chin, will, and you just flatline him like that. Do you think that should just be automatic knockout of the year? Give it to him.
I mean, Derick, it's when you just see the picture, the scene, you watch the fight, you watch everything go down. One of the big sayings is, you get your head punted into the third row, right? That's what everybody's looking for. Michael Chandler changed El Kukui like 10 years with the way he elevated this man's skull. And I think right there, that's an instant front runner. It has to be. And that's why it's on everybody's minds, like you're saying.
And just like literally the unorthodox nature of it. When Anderson Silva did that to Vitor Belfort and he just hit him with the front kick and just like slumped him out. That was one thing, right? We'd never seen it before, really. We're like, ooh. This one was like a football punt. Like technique-wise, this wasn't a fantastic technique. This was literally, I'm just going to kick your face in and we'll see. I'm surprised that his head didn't fall off of his shoulders, man, but that was a hell of a knockout right there. All right, now for a couple of these other ones, man, I think context matters, right? So let's talk about Zhang Weili with her spinning back fist over, Joanna Champion, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, man. And I think the reason why, if you look at just in terms of stunning knockouts, is this really up there? Like, let's be honest. Is it really up there in terms of just stunning nature?
I always think of spinning knockouts pretty stunning. Anytime anybody's able to set up a spinning move, yeah. And I think what I'm looking for right here, I'm with you with the context, man. To do that to Joanna Champion, to do that to somebody that is very hard to knock out, and if I'm mistaken, one, maybe two knockouts on Joanna's record. Very impressive with the strength Weili can do, and to just a skill level to set that up against a champion, man. Impressive.
Think about it. Rose Namajunas, when she caught Joanna, she had to follow it up with some punches to get her out of there. Zhang Weili hit her with the spinning back fist and Joanna just face planted. Like, that's the context right there. You did it over who was formerly pretty much the GOAT of the strawweight division. You just showcase in the rematch after you ballooned her head up in the first one, that in the second one you could just flatline her. You put her to retirement too. So all of those things combined, I think context-wise, we're like, wow, that is a fantastic knockout. Now, these are some interesting ones right here. Leon Edwards, right, versus Kamaru Usman. A lot of people really, really like this knockout. How can you not, right? Because if you're talking about context, bro, you can't beat this context-wise. First off, you're losing the fight, right? You're out of it. Your corner has to talk you back into it. Then, fifth round, when you're really thinking minute and a half left, all right, man, something's got to land. He doesn't look like he's dropping a lot of urgency. Kamaru Usman, dicks, dives, dubs, whatever, head kicked into oblivion over the pound-for-pound champion, the dude who nobody thought was going to be beatable in this sense. And he did it to take the belt away from the pound-for-pound champion. I mean, context-wise, you can't beat it, but just stunning knockout-wise. I mean, what do you think?
Context-wise, it's all there, Derick. People were writing his obituary into the thing. I think that one right there is a layup for me at least. But for the knockout-wise, for the technician-wise, to not give up on yourself, set up a feint, throw a two, and know that Kamaru's going to dip to one side so that you can throw your left kick over the top, man, to me, that is beautiful technique, beautiful setup, seeing it. And especially, like you said, man, losing the fight, keeping that mental composure there. You got your coaches yelling at you. Everybody thinks you're done. I think this is a beautiful technical knockout as well.
And I'll tell you, man, it was also the commentary. Like, it was just perfect. It was movie-esque, right? John Anik being like, oh, listen, he never quit on himself. This man is not cut from that cloth.
It's not the cloth from which he is cut, as he sends a left over the top. Man.
Fantastic, context-wise. And then lastly, man, this is the one that I just thought in terms of pure violence, like this got to take the crown. And we're talking about Molly Meatball McCann over Luana Carolina, right? You have Meatball versus Dread. You have car crash collisions turned into, you saw her set it up. You saw her look at it. She's like, hold on, what? Boom, spinning back fist. But it's not just the spinning back fist. It's first off, in women's flyweight division, how often do you see this happen? You do not. This was like Molly McCann's first knockout win, and I can't tell you how long, right? But you hit the spinning back fist, and you slump your opponent, literally flatline them, slump them, and it was actually scary after the fact because they're like, yo, she's not getting up. Like, she potentially cut a body here. So for the context of how often do you see this? Never really, right? How violent was it? That was more violent than some of the men's knockouts right there. And on top of that, the picture of like they slumped out like that, you never want to see it. But with that being said, brother, now we need to announce a winner. So let's talk about it, man. Let's see who our winner is. And I'm gonna go solo for this one. I'm gonna start us off, because I got Molly Meatball McCann as the winner, man. Luana Carolina, UFC London. That's my knockout of the year, folks. It's pretty clean cut, simple. This is violence in its finest form, right? Context-wise, I think it fits the bill as well. But at the end of the day, man, Michael Chandler over Tony Ferguson, that was a very close second for me due to the violent nature of it. But a lot of this is really what you like, right? It's context. It's the beauty of the technique, right? It's really just like what gets you going as a fight fan. And clearly you can see I like violence. But with that being said, now let me turn it over to my man, AJ. AJ, brother, I'm going to give you the drum roll. I'm going to announce it. Let's get it, brother. Who is your knockout of the year?
Derick, my knockout of the year, Leon Edwards, man, the high kick over Kamaru Usman. I'm with you. I think the Molly McCann, the knockout, this violence, the setup, beautiful. It's all right there. But to me, the storyline, getting stepped on for the majority of your career. You eat a 3-piece and a soda at your own home turf, and nobody gives you any respect after that. You get passed up by everybody in the division. Your obituary's been written in literally as you're still losing the fight. Everybody's like saying, "Oh, you're happy enough to take a decision." That's a moral win for Leon Edwards. This guy's nobody. As John Anik says it, we said it before, Derick, this is not the cloth from which he is cut to give up on himself. Left kick high over the top, man. It is a beautiful story piece, backstory, setup, combo technique. Everything was there for me. So this one I had to choose basically because it is the full encompassment. I agree with you. That Molly McCann, I love Meatball Molly. That pure violence knockout. It is a thing to see. But I think with the UFC, you need a little bit of story. You need a little bit of the denouement, things coming together. And for me, Leon Edwards high kick over Kamaru Usman, man, it's a chef's kiss. It is a beautiful thing. And good to see Rocky finally get his own too, man.
That's right. And I'll tell you what, man, like at the end of the day, you're right. You have to have a good story to really sell anything. But I do think the story behind the Molly McCann when she did it in UFC London, brother. The Scouser did it in London. Like, come on, brother. So head to head, neck to neck. We don't have a consensus pick on this one, but these are both of our picks for knockout of the year. And with that being said, let's not mince any more words. Let's get over to the submission of the year, brother. So we got a few less choices across the board. But we've got 3 UFC fights, and then we have 1 PFL appearance right here, man. You got Stevie Ray, who hit the modified twister on Anthony Showtime Pettis. Yuri Prochazka snatching the belt away from Glover Teixeira with the rear naked choke. Amanda Lemos getting submitted by Jessica Andrade with a fantastic standing arm triangle. And then, of course, man, Islam Makhachev, who just does something to the jiu-jitsu guy that nobody else can do, man. You just arm triangled him, you mauled him. It was nasty. But let's talk about the first one, brother. Let's talk about Stevie Ray versus Anthony Pettis, man. What made this one fantastic is simply the skill level, the difficulty level of the submission in and of itself, man. I mean, you're hitting a modified twister on a dude like Anthony Pettis, who not only has fantastic grappling in and of itself, man, but this dude is a former champion. This dude is a legend. And a lot of the times, man, it's just the pain, it's the ribs crunching, it's the neck being cranked, right? So when you can just hit something like that on somebody of his caliber, I just think that, without being said, that has to be a submission of the year. What did you think about that one? Do you think it deserves to be on this list, first and foremost?
I mean, just on the performance alone, man, like you said, to be able to hit a technique like that on a person who has seen it all and done it all and is very well versed, man, just speaks levels to the game of Stevie Ray. And it's hard to not include this one into it, even though, like you said, Derick, it's PFL, so a lot of this gets overlooked for a lot of people, but you can't overlook that twister, man. It is a beautiful technique and hard to hit, man, hard to even see. You know, you rarely see it. That's how impressive it is, and especially against a caliber like Pettis.
That's right. Now this next one right here, man, I think that this could be the winner of multiple categories. That's what's crazy about this one. When we're talking about Yuri Prochazka getting the rear naked choke over Glover Teixeira in the 5th round of a championship bout that was back and forth the entire time, to submit the guy that was clearly headed to a victory if he was able to just keep the pressure up that round. Phenomenal. But my thing about this one is that it's tough to call this a submission of the year, simply because the submission in and of itself wasn't fantastic. Like, it was a cool submission, right? You got it, you locked up the choke, but it was also, we're both exhausted, we got nothing left in the tank, there we go, right? So the context of the win, I think that this deserves to be in another category that we'll talk about in a second. But you tell me, man, do you think context in that story of how it was going should really count when you're talking about a submission of the year?
Not necessarily submission of the year, maybe a comeback of the year, maybe something of another sort. But I agree, as much, I think it is good to be included, because a lot of people, I saw this on a lot of people's lists too, man, because of how out of nowhere, and especially to do that on Glover, man, another person who is so well experienced and seen everything and done it all. I can see why it's included, but like you said, not the most technical of submit, especially when we're going from a modified twister to just an RNC, man, a rear naked choke. It's apples to oranges, if you will.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Still a fantastic choke, man. Still came out of nowhere. Still, when you watch it, you get goosebumps and you're like, God damn, how did that even happen, right? But okay, let's move on to the next one. These two, I mean, it's clear cut why these are here, right? Islam Makhachev over Charles Oliveira. First off, the reason why, AJ, I'm going to be honest with you, this isn't at the top of my list, even though it's a fantastic submission right here, is because the submission was a byproduct of hurting your opponent and not being scared to jump in there and finish the job, right? Now, you have to give it points because it's Charles Oliveira and he's submitting everybody, and if you even enter his guard, you're probably going to get submitted, right? But Islam Makhachev is a little bit of a different story. Fantastic arm triangle choke, one of my favorite to perform myself. But at the end of the day, is it a fantastic submission, or was it just a fantastic finish overall?
I actually think it was, I could see what you're saying about the fantastic submission versus a finish. I think it is a little bit better of a finish right here because of what you're saying, man. The storyline of the people that are scared to jump into Charlie Olive's guard are vast. There's very few and far between that are willing to jump in there, and one of them is Makhachev. And to me, it was the beating somebody at their own game. I'm gonna take your ego, I'm gonna take your pride, I'm gonna take your soul, and I'm gonna beat you at your own game. That to me right there is a storyline. And because you hit a submission on a Charles Oliveira, who is that well versed, it's right there, man. It's neck and neck. I could see it, especially with this next one we're gonna talk about.
Absolutely, fantastic submit. I mean, listen, man, we're talking about like stakes on the line and the pressure of like you better do something to this dude, and you finish him, and you said you were gonna finish him. Like, oh my god, it's fantastic. And then lastly, man, you got Jessica Andrade, who hits the standing arm triangle choke against Amanda Lemos, man. And this resonates to me on a couple of different levels. The first level is, first off, Amanda Lemos is a sniper, right? And she caught Andrade early. She had her hurt, she had her rocked, right? But Andrade does what Andrade does, man. She bullies you up, she walks forward, she gets you into these little wrestling scenarios, scrambles and all that fun stuff. And then she just dips underneath, locks up a standing arm triangle. And folks, I want you to understand just how difficult that is. Like, in terms of just like skill points for just difficulty, like that is one of the most difficult things you can do, because there's so many ways for your opponent to be able to circumnavigate that and get to a safe position. Given that Amanda Lemos, who is a fantastic grappler herself, got caught in that by the shorter fighter, Jessica Andrade, I can't even put into words how impressive this was, man. So you got past the power striker, you submitted her even though you're supposed to knock her out. It was fantastic across the board. And for a women's submission, man, like, beautiful. What do you think?
A submission, another submission we very rarely see, man, because it's so hard to pull off. And against a boogie woman, if you will, of that division that was coming up and knocking everybody out, coming to take the older fighter's spot in Jessica Andrade. And Jessica Andrade just absolutely brought it to her, man. It's hard, like I said, it's hard to pick, man. These ones are so close in the submission of the year, right, both for storyline as well as technique going into this one, man.
That's right. But let's pick a winner, brother. Let's get it. All right, man. I gotta go with Jessica Andrade, man. I think it's pretty clear cut. I think I'm gonna have to start switching these, so the last one we talk about isn't the one that I pick, right? But ultimately, how can you go wrong with Jessica Andrade? Skill points, rare points, just like shorter fighter getting it on the taller fighter, beating the boogie woman. I mean, all across the board. It's hard for me to not pick Jessica Andrade right here. I think this is overlooked because the stakes were not nearly as high as Makhachev versus Oliveira, or even Stevie Ray versus Pettis, or even all these other championship fights. You know what I mean? Teixeira and all that shit. Ultimately, man, just because the stakes weren't high in terms of a championship on the line or anything like this, man, submission for submission just across the board, up there for me. I love it. But it's not about me, AJ, now. It's about you, brother. So let's see who you got for your winner submission of the year, brother.
Man, mine is Islam Makhachev, man. The arm triangle over Charles Oliveira, for me, this one was super hard to pick, man. Both very close. My second runner-up, or the runner-up, excuse me, was the Jessica Andrade, because of how difficult it was. But again, the storyline behind it, the proclamation years and years ago that Abdul Manap set out before Khabib was even champion, man. He said it: when Khabib leaves, Islam will be the guy. And for Islam to come in and do that to Charlie Olives in his own style, after hurting him, after dropping him on the feet, man, all the things that the Russian smash style people aren't normally used to seeing, but Islam came in and proved he covers all grounds right there, man. To me, that is just the storyline again, fulfilling all the necessary checked boxes. But I will say that Andrade, that states the technique is so impressive. This one is a very hard one to choose. But again, for me, Islam Makhachev with the background, it's hard to, man, because I picked against him. I picked against him for quite a while, and it's good to see the Sambo is still kicking back, man. What do you think, Derick?
I thought that this was a pretty fantastic choice, man. Like I said, for me personally, I think it's a better finish than it is a submission, but just doing what you did to Charles Oliveira, making it look easy, steamrolling him, submitting the jiu-jitsu guy that submits everybody. You should just win submission of the year simply for that fact alone. You know what I mean? But we all have different criteria at the end of the day. Fantastic pick. I do think that the Stevie Ray over Anthony Pettis does get overlooked because it's a PFL fight. But Modified Twister, man, I mean, that's always going to be up there for me. But let's move on to a new category. We're talking about the Rookie of the Year. So this is going to be a little bit different. Let me explain criteria here. Rookie of the Year award is, and let me pull this down so I can explain this to you guys. Rookie of the Year, ultimately, right? This is going to be who made the biggest impact within their first 12 months with whatever new promotion. That does not mean you just made your debut, right? It means you made your company debut. You made your company promotional debut, whatever the case may be, and you had a fantastic impact. And there's a couple of fighters here that I want to talk about. So first and foremost, Muhammad Mokaev. How could you go wrong with this guy? 3-0 to start off. Flyweight division, he's taken it by storm. 2 submissions, 1 decision. I mean, he's looked pretty relentless. He even set a takedown record, you know what I mean, in like his first or second fight. You have to include Raul Rosas Jr., right? Now, technically, only 1-0. I mean, if we're really talking about it, he's only 1-0 in the UFC, right? He has that one win against Jay Perrin, right? Fantastic. But he did get a win on the Dana White Contender Series. He made his debut at 18 years old, and for that reason alone, I think that he broke a lot of barriers here. He made a lot of history, and you have to be considered for a Rookie of the Year in that respect, right?
Oh, yeah, man. And I mean, just for name value, and it might be a little bit of recency bias again, but just for people that have made an impact and that have actually fought in the UFC, because there's another one that I feel like we couldn't include in Bo Nickel because we just haven't seen enough from him yet. But for name value, Rosas, man, this dude makes an impact.
I think so. Now, of course, how can you not bring up Caio Borralho, right? Borralho. Apologies if I butcher your name again, man. 3-0, 3 decisions after he got passed up on Dana White Contender Series. So what he's been doing, AJ, you have to admit, it's been really impressive. But when you compare him to the other names on this list, there's just one thing that's lacking, and it's finishes. Everything else has been domination. Grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, domination. Where's the finishes at? You know what I mean? Do you agree? Do you feel the same way?
I do, and for some reason, I feel like it's either the brass that doesn't like Borralho, or somewhere right there, this dude's not getting enough, and it might be because of those finishes, and I think that's why I'm overlooking him as well. But look out for this dude, man, because if he can find his rhythm, he's a very dangerous fighter.
This dude could be a champion right here. I think so. At the rate that he's going, I think he could definitely be a champion. People aren't going to like it because of his style, but he doesn't care. So that's the other beauty right there. All right, man. You also have to mention, how can you not? Jack Della Maddalena, man. 3-0, 3 knockouts, 3 first-round finishes. I mean, come on, can't go wrong with this dude. And then Jailton Almeida, man, 3-0, 2 submissions, 1 knockout, 3 wins in 3 different weight classes. And to me, that's kind of what takes the cake right there, ultimately. Like, I feel like Jailton Almeida is probably one of the most undervalued dudes on this entire list. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, let's jump straight to it, man. Let's talk about a winner, brother. Let's get it. All right, man. So for my rookie of the year, what do you know? Jailton Almeida, you gotta love it. I said I was gonna switch it up. I guess I brain farted on that one. Either way, this is a man right here with fantastic victories over respectable opponents. But you do it in 3 weight classes. You hit 205, you hit light heavyweight, you get the dub in heavyweight on short notice, and then you said, oh, you know what? You need a catch weight 220 pounds on short notice? Not a problem. Give it to me. I'm gonna finish everybody. 3 first-round finishes, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. How can you not be impressed with this dude? And here's the thing. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Even though Jailton Almeida is my winner on paper, in my eyes, if I could award it to 2 people, Jack Della Maddalena gets the other win. Here's the reason why. Maddalena, 3-0, 3 knockouts, 3 first-round finishes. The only thing that Jailton Almeida takes the cake on for me is that he did it in 3 different weight classes. When we're talking about being a problem, I think that's a problem right there. And then to kind of conclude this rant of this pick right here, Jailton Almeida is a guy that when you watch him shoot in on somebody, when you watch his pure just aggressiveness, it makes you scared sitting on the couch. Like, I don't even want nothing to do with this dude because he is too relentless. With that being said, AJ, man, that's my pick. Now I'm going to hand it on over to you. And it looks like we are rocking with you. You were rocking with my man.
And my pick, Jack Della Maddalena, fan, for rookie of the year. I'm with you, Derick. These last couple of categories, whether it's rookie of the year, submission of the year, have been so super close with both who we're picking. I almost thought about Jailton Almeida, because you're right, man. Anybody who's willing to step up to the plate any day, anytime, any place, that's my kind of fighter, man. And that's what Uncle Chael preaches. I like him, but also at the same point, Jack Della Maddalena, this dude comes in to fight, and he comes in with a purpose in there, man. He's not just in there to take part, man. This dude's coming to take over. And look out, because Jack Della Maddalena had an impressive year. I do agree, Derick, that a little bit of me really likes that fighting in 3 different weight classes, getting a first-round finish in 3 different weight classes. I feel like personally, Jack Della Maddalena has a lot of the media press behind him. Almeida is one of the most underrated, overlooked fighters of or coming into this rookie year. But Jack Della Maddalena just has a little bit more push for me. So I think that's maybe what's influencing this decision. Either way, a very tough decision. And we got a nice rookie class coming into these fights, or going into these years that they're going to be fighting, man.
I'd say so, man. I would say so. So let's just ask this, because we already finished with the category. We have our winners. But, like, if you had to choose of that list, who do you think has the best title aspirations? Like, who has the best chance to actually become a champion?
Ooh, man. Probably Matt. Well, I don't know, because Almeida, he can finish it in multiple ways. Not saying Maddalena can't. I'm still gonna go Maddalena. I don't know. I think just because they has so much like momentum behind him, he has an easier way to get there. But I think Almeida has a lot. Well, we'll see if he has more tools into it. But what do you think?
If I had to rank them, like literally one through like from one being the best, five being like the worst, Jack Della Maddalena number one, Jelton Almeida number two, give me Muhammad Makayev number three, Caio
Yep.
Bahayo number four, and then Rosas Jr. last on that
Yeah.
list. Simply
Yeah.
one fight. We don't know. We haven't seen anything of him really. But man, talk about a rookie class, man. We're going to have some fun ones in here. All right, but let's move on to the next one. This one's highly controversial, but we're going to talk about it. This is the nominees for your Bloody Water Podcast Fight of the Year. And there's a couple different ways you can go about this, man. We had fantastic action across the board. You had Stephen Thompson, versus Kevin Holland. You had Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka. Fantastic. We talked about it earlier. Chimaev versus Burns. You have Gamrot versus Sarukian. Figueiredo versus Moreno, the trilogy right there. And AJ, it's tough because at the end of the day, Fight of the Year can mean so many different things to so many different people. And to me, I'm going to give you my criteria for Fight of the Year. If it's going to be a Fight of the Year contender, that means it was back and forth competitive the entire time. Not comeback, not you were getting your ass kicked the whole fight and then you came back. No, that doesn't count to me. That means that rounds 1, 2, 3, if it's a 3-rounder, it had to go down to that last round. Somebody's got to pick it up right here. If it's 5 rounds, we got to go for rounds 4 and 5. We don't know who's going to win right here. It's going to be massive. Lots of dropping people back and forth, scrambles, all of that. So that's my criteria. Now, what is yours when it comes down to what you consider a Fight of the Year?
Derek, my fight of the year, I kept it super simple this year, man. I put all the fights on. I started watching them, and the one where I just wanted to be at the edge of my seat, eyes glued, something where I'm sitting there back and forth. There's action the entire time. All I do is want to skip the commercials and just get to the action. That right there was my fight of the year criteria, man.
Absolutely. No, I'm definitely with you right there. And I will say it's a little tougher, especially for us. We watch all the fights to rewatch it and get those same jitters. Because in the moment, some of these fights, it's like, oh my God, the stakes are incredible. These guys haven't been tested. We're about to find out. Now you already know kind of what happened. So it's a little bit different. But either way, I like the criteria. And now let's announce a winner. So I guess I'm going first. Let's get it. My Fight of the Year. I like Yuri Prochazka's win over Glover Teixeira. I talked about it earlier. I said I can't give this submission of the year because I think it falls into a different category. And I think this was the Fight of the Year. Reason why. First round, Glover Teixeira goes in, gets the takedown, dominates Yuri Prochazka. We come back for that second round. Yuri looks like he's on the verge of finishing Glover. You go back to that third round. It's back and forth. Fourth round, back and forth. Here comes round number 5. Literally, Glover Teixeira, if he can get the takedown, if he can control, he wins the fight. But what do you know? Glover, he jumps for a guillotine, right? Bad move. Yuri's on top. They're scrambling. They're back and forth. And then finally, after regarding, after doing a little bit of a roll to kind of get your guard back, Yuri dominates a little bit with his jiu-jitsu, comes in, gets the choke. And in the camera angle that was shown, it was so anticlimactic because you didn't really see it. All you saw was Yuri stand up and then walk away like, yeah, I'm the champ now. So it was one of those, submitted Glover Teixeira, which is what doesn't happen, right? It was just a ooh and ah, new champion, light heavyweight. This dude had all the hype behind him, and the fight in and of itself kept me on the edge of my seat, as you said earlier, AJ. So that is my fight of the night, bro. I know it can be a little, like I said, back and forth when it comes down to ultimately your criteria on it, but I hope that you like this one. So before commenting on it, brother, let's just get straight to your pick, and we can talk about them after, brother. So it looks like you got, for your fight of the night, fight of the year,
Fight of the year, Derek. Hamzat Chimaev defeating Gilbert Burns right here, brother. Again, back and forth. This one, what did it for me, because I agree, the Yuri Prochazka, if you're a fan of this show, you know that I'm a fan of Yuri Prochazka. Hard not to choose that one to win, Ben, but what did this fight for me right here? Hamzat Chimaev having all the hype behind him, running through everybody. He said it himself. He's here to kill everybody. He's taking over. No one's going to stop him. A bunch of first round finishes, and then he meets Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert Burns, for the fighter that Gilbert was and the big scary guy that Gilbert was, he kind of ran into a little bit of a lull in his career. So it was like, okay, well, this is going to take on the young buck coming in, Hamzat Chimaev, and they go to absolute war, man. When I was sitting down watching this, of all the fights, they were bloody. They were back and forth. They were happy, so happy they headbutted each other at the end of the fight. Derek, this had all the things, both before, after, during. that made me, the fight fan, very excited to watch a scrap going on between two absolute animals in there. And this, man, another hard category. We were blessed in 2022 to see some amazing fights, man, because even the Stephen Thompson, there was a bunch of fights in there that are very exciting, and so many other fights that we didn't even put into the category because there was a lot of really exciting fights. But this one, I'm just excited to see a bloody back and forth between somebody who's just running through a division, man.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you what, man, this was a very close runner-up. This was second place for me. Only reason why is because you could see from the onset, it was pretty much the Chimaev show. He was walking Burns down. He got caught with a couple counters, but he was putting the pressure. He was initiating all of the exchanges. I thought it was a good fight. And even though some people thought that Gilbert Burns won the fight, I think that the right man won the fight. I think Chimaev got it done on that one. Fantastic fight. But this is similar, just like the Yuri Glover one, man. If it didn't end in a finish, and like if like Yuri caught that choke and he wasn't able to finish it, you could then very well argue who won this fight, dude. You know what I mean? So listen, fantastic category, fantastic fights. And now we take a slight pivot. Instead of fight of the year, we'll talk about the fighter of the year. And this one, I'll talk about some controversy. Let's get it, brother. All right, man, fighter of the year. You got, I mean, look at this list. Look at these names right here. Topping off the list, you got Alexander Volkanovski. Only 2 fights in 2022, but he did have 2 title defenses, 1 knockout and 1 decision. And AJ, I want to talk a little bit further about this one because context-wise, you got to think about it, right? You first off demolish the Korean Zombie. You finish him in the 4th round, right? At the end of the day, it was just too much. Like, they had to stop that fight, right? So you did something to somebody who really does not get put it on him like that. Had a fantastic title defense right there. And then, oh yeah, by the way, you also beat Max Holloway 50-45, the man who was the greatest featherweight aside from Jose Aldo. So my thing here is that while 2-0, 1 knockout, 1 decision, that's not impressive. Not really. But then you add 2 title defenses, 1 shutout against literally a dude who nobody would even fathom that would be an option against, and then knocking out the Korean Zombie. I think for that one, you gotta have, that's pretty fantastic. So when you're diving into this fight, a fighter of the year, are you diving in like that? Are you looking into context like that? Or are you just looking at the numbers and comparing?
No, I'm diving into the context, Derick, because of the fight, especially at this kind of a level that Alexander Volkanovski is fighting at. You need to take those things in because you're right on the numbers. 2 fights, 1 finish, 1 decision, 2 title defenses. Sure, it looks good. You know, like there's things there that Volkanovski does right on paper, but for the extra right there to do that against Max Holloway, to solidify, and for somebody in myself who thought Max Holloway won both of those first 2 fights, to come back in that 3rd fight, handle all that stuff, and absolutely put it to one of the greatest ever do it, the Blessed Express Max Holloway. Very impressive Volkanovski, man. You can't not include this one into fight, or you can't include Alexander Volkanovski in fighter of the year, man. This dude is very impressive and looking and has his sights set for a very explosive 2023 too. It's hard to overlook this guy.
That's right. That's right. Now, how could you go wrong with Islam Makhachev? I mean, 2-0, you win a UFC title, you knocked one person out, you submitted the other one. But let's be honest about this one, man. The most impressive win was the title win against Charles Oliveira. The other win was against Bobby Green. I'm not saying that that's not a good win, but I mean, in comparison to some of these other guys, All right, man. Zheng Wei Li, 2-0. She wins her UFC title against the Cookie Monster, Carla Esparza. Knocked out Ioana Jędrzejczyk and submitted Esparza, man. So, I mean, for that one, in terms of just like a fighter, not even just a women's fighter, but just as a fighter, that's pretty impressive, yeah?
Oh, yeah, man. A couple champions under your belt, now a belt around your waist. I think Zhang Wei Li definitely made her mark for the year. Again, though, the one thing that does this for me, the activity level, and maybe it's not their fault at all. You can't blame them for the activity level. It's hard to get championship fights going that often, but you see people with 3 fights, 4 fights in the year taking any division. It's hard to put those numbers against it, but I do agree the backstory is there for Zhang Wei Li.
That's right. And then I didn't even think about that, but you're completely right about that. She did it against 2 champions, 2 multiple-time champions. Was Ioana a multiple-time champion? I know Carla was for sure, but either way, man, impressive work. And then you got Poatan, man, Alex Pereira. Like, come on, bro. 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 decision. You win UFC title. You beat the style bender. I mean, for a lot of people, I don't even think they question it. They're just like, you give it to Pereira. Why would you not give it to Pereira? He's clearly the fighter of the year. Now, I think that he had a very impressive run and had the most massive leap to the top of the division. But then at the same time, the guys that he fought before that, I mean, you had Bruno Silva and you had Andreas Michailidis, right? So like the Bruno Silva one, that was back and forth. That was competitive. That was one where you saw, okay, even though Pereira was definitely winning the fight, he got a couple chinks in his armor right there, man. So like very impressive, but the most impressive aspect of it truly does come in. You knocked out the style bender in a fight that you were losing, but you knocked out the style bender nonetheless. What do you think?
This one, man, for me, maybe not the most impressive fighter of the year because the value of his opponents may not have been as high, but for somebody that took over the UFC, made an impact within the shortest amount of time, that is your year of a fighter. And I mean, to me, that is the most impressive thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And then lastly, man, Leon Edwards. And this one is the toughest because on paper, you did the least amount of work, 1-0, but you won a UFC title. But here's the context. You got a knockout versus the number one pound for pound fighter in the UFC, in the world, man. So like ultimately, that carries the most weight. I'm sorry, I don't care. Across the board, that carries the most weight. You knocked out the number one pound for pound guy and you won the title. I mean, come on, bro. What more can you ask for? But with that being said, let's talk about a winner of the year. All right, well, man, my fighter of the year, give it to the Alexander the Great Volkanovski right here. You can even see I got my man right here on the poster when he did UFC 266 or something like that. Either way, man, I honestly think the win over Max Holloway, a shutout win against, I mean, the Blessed Express, the dude who just was steamrolling everybody, and the finish over the Korean Zombie, 2 title defenses, man, and you've set your sights up for a fantastic 2023 moving up a weight class, trying to challenge Islam Makhachev, another dude who's like arguably on this list. Like, come on, bro, what are we talking about here? I thought this was fantastic. I think I felt like when I made this pick, I might get criticized for this one a little bit because I don't think people value Alexander Volkanovski's work the same way that I do, given just like who he did it against. But nonetheless, man, I think that this takes the cake over all the rest of them, given the quality of opponents right here. You have 2 Hall of Famers right here that you just steamrolled, basically. So that's my pick. But what do you think about that one, AJ?
I can see why some people might think that, they'll give you a little flack for that pick, Derick. I like it. Coming in, solidifying against one of the greatest to ever do it, solidifying that you beat this dude 3 times in a row, nobody else to challenge you, and then you have the foresight to set yourself up for a very impactful 2023. How can you not like it, man? This dude's checking all the boxes right there.
That's right, but it's not consensus. So, my man, let's talk about it. Who you got for Fighter of the Year?
Derick said it might not be consensus, but I'm going Alex Paeta, man. And this one hurt a little bit. This one, as an Izzy fan, one of my favorite fighters in the game, to see the way the fight ended and all that stuff, it hurt to put Alex Paeta as my fighter of the year. But what can you say, dude? This dude came in 3 fights. He said, I'm going in. I'm gonna take. I've knocked you out in 2 other fights in our other sport. But now you're the king over here, bro. I'm coming to take your crown. And sure enough, that's what he does in 3 fights in the UFC. This dude climbs all the way to where it takes people many people multiple years, 12, 13, 14 years to finally reach the pinnacle. This dude does it in 3 fights and working with some of the best to do it and living the life, man. It was hard to pick anybody else to get it done because of how impactful Alex Pereira was on the sport of MMA. To me, that's the year that took over, and it's Alex Pereira, man. This is a hard one to not pick, even though I'm a big Izzy fan, and I'm betting on Izzy for the knockout for coming back. But I'm just saying, this is very impressive either way.
That's right, man. I mean, listen, it's hard to argue. It is hard to argue that pick right there. For most people, I think Alex Pereira is definitely the fighter of the year. Different credentials, or what credentials? That's not the one. What do you say? What do you call it, man?
I
lost the word.
I don't know.
Sorry, folks. Rare brain fart here on the Bloody Water podcast, man. When you say like this is our reasons for why you won, starts with a C.
Categories? No.
No,
I don't know,
lost
man.
it. It's okay, folks. I'm sure. I know I look super dumb right now, but either
folks,
way,
put it in the comments. Hit us with it because we both had a brain fart.
That's right. But now that we got that out the way, this is the best award yet, man. This is the one unique to the Bloody Water podcast. This is the Bloodiest Water Award going up next, man. And as you can see, we don't got no categories right here because honestly, man, before we do anything, AJ, I want to talk about your criteria. That was the word I was looking for right there. Let's talk criteria right here, brother. I mean, the Bloodiest Water Award really, truly, in my opinion, still is yet to be formed. it's not solidified yet. It's still open for interpretation. And I was curious, and I didn't want to talk with you before this because I wanted live on air your opinion of like what went into it. Because believe it or not, folks, we have a consensus pick here. No communication prior to this. No like, oh, we could have picked literally any one of the fights that happened, and we just so happened to both stumble across the same fight. So my question to you here, AJ, is like, you go first. What is your criteria for the Bloodiest Water Award, and why do you think that? I'll save the second part. But what's your criteria?
I think my biggest criteria for the Bloodiest Water Award. So folks, just a little transparency on the Discord. When we're doing the things, Derick just put a Bloodiest Water Award, no category, no nothing like that. So in my mind, to get this done, this is something that we preach consistently throughout the show. You know, never giving up on yourself, being willing to bite down on the mouthpiece, get the work done that needs to get done. Don't feel bad for yourself. Just get in there and do it. Be the person you want to be all the time, and you know, really create your own greatness. And to me, that is what the Bloodiest Water is for. You know, you got to get in there. You got to get beat up. Things are going to get bloody. Things are going to get messy. Things are not going to work out the way you want them to work out, but you stayed persistent. You overcame. You did the work that needed to be done, and you believed in yourself enough to do that work. That right there, to me, is the criteria that we preach on the show all the time. And there's a lot of fighters that, I mean, this was one of the hardest categories to nail down because there's so many fights that check off all those boxes. They're bloody, they're gritty, they're dirty, there's a comeback, there's some kind of emotions going into this fight that make it more impactful, that create a challenge that people overcome. I mean, I don't know, but Derick, to me, that's my criteria. Is this something akin to you, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest here, man. Everything you said is pretty much spot on for the way that I view this. And the way that I view the Bloodiest Water Award is, one, you're showcasing your character, right? I've always been a fan of the people who you can just hit them a million times. You can knock them down a million times, but they're not going anywhere. Why? Because you're not breaking them. They're breaking you. You're hitting them and you're wondering, what do I have to do to get you out of here, right? And I think that's exactly who this fighter, this consensus pick right here, he showcased that. You got to have some blood too, right? So you got to get cut up. You got to get nasty. You got to be bathing in it. You got to have some blood in your mouth, have that nasty, you're chewing on nickels after the fight type situation, right? And then really, it's the biggest part that you said. You overcame that adversity. You got in the bloodiest, darkest, nastiest, muddiest waters you could possibly get yourself in, and then you came out on top. And to me, there's nothing more inspirational than that. To me, there's nothing more of a greater metaphor for life than that, right? When you're in the darkest spot you've ever been in your life, just understand that your life doesn't suck. That day might suck, but your life doesn't suck, and you're gonna find a way out. And to give us our winner for the Bloodiest Water Award, AJ, brother, it is Danger Matt Schnell in his submission win against, I put versus Matt Schnell, so I completely butchered this. Apologies. Sumaderji is the guy that he beat, man. Sumaderji. Apologies, because this is the Bloody Water, fucking award right here, so we're going to have to fix this. All right, my man. So, like, mistakes and all that aside, you got to give it to him, right? This is what I wanted to showcase right here. I'm going to pull this down because we know who our winner is, but... Oh, that's not it. Hold on, brother. So you see something weird right there, folks. You're about to see. There we go. Look at that. This is the scene after the case right here, man. Not only do you have Matt Schnell putting up his fingers like, give me some money, give me the 50K bonus, Sumaderji looks like he just died, slumped over on Matt Schnell while he is just elated. Look at the exuberance. If this isn't a fantastic representation of like the Bloodiest Water Award, I truly don't know what is, man. So at the end of the day, Matt Schnell, even though he went on to lose his next fight after that, even though he's had a rocky up and down career, lots of canceled fights and all that good stuff, weight issues, this right here was a true representation of that. He can retire, in my opinion, he can retire with his head held high and go to show his kids, grandkids, whatever the case may be. You want a representation of what grit, of what tenacity looks like, of what never giving up on yourself looks like. Go watch my fight against Sumaderji. I honestly think, man, I cannot be more elated in this situation for this man right here. What do you think?
I 100% agree with you, Derick. This fits all the mantra, all the mottos, all the metaphors, everything that we've been preaching for years and years and years, even before this show, man. This checks all the boxes, but not only that, there is one fight that I showed so many new fight fans that I'm like, you guys want to see something? You want to see a fight that'll invigorate you, that'll fire you up, that'll show you that not everything is impossible, that somebody doesn't give up on themselves, man. This is the fight that I keep on replay, that I just show people, like, hey, just watch. You want to see the most exciting 2 minutes of sports you will ever see in your entire life. You want to see somebody not give up on themselves. You want to see some passion, some perseverance. man, this is the fight to watch, and this is why we love this sport. That's why Matt Schnell gets the Bloodiest Water Award, man. The only consensus we have, and it is well deserved, sir.
I think so, man. So with that being said, folks, that is your entire list for the Bloody Water Podcast 2022 MMA Award show, man. You gotta love it. Honestly, my man, like when it comes down to it, AJ, I want to say that 2022 was a fantastic year, man. Overall for MMA, just for combat, just for the growth of this platform right here, man. And I cannot say that I appreciate you guys enough. But I do think what's important, AJ, is that we shift ourselves out of 2022 mode and we start gearing up, because come January 14th, first card of the 2023 UFC calendar goes down. And we had already mentioned it in the beginning of the show, my man. But like, listen, this competition, I have a feeling in my gut that this is going to be a very, very tenacious one. There's going to be no love lost, but also at the same time, man, we coming for blood. We getting after it, you know what I'm saying? So you tell me, AJ, man, make a couple of bold predictions on just the entire MMA landscape. What do you have for me? Just something off the top of your head.
Man, so a little bit of bold predictions. I'll pontificate while I'm trying to think of it, because what I'm most excited for 2023, Derick, we're going into this thing 0-0 again. There might be 2 shiny belts right behind you, but folks, the slate is clean. Right. And I think what's going to be driving the growth factor the most is that we're both so hungry for it. Derick, you said it best, man. You're in it for blood. I'm in it for blood. Yes, there's going to be no love lost here, but folks, the best way to win you some money is be tuning into this show, because both of us are going to be going for the gold. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Derick has a lot of it right now. I'm missing some behind me, man. I'm gunning for it all day long, and I know my boy is that also, right. Man, we're gonna be fighting. We're gonna be going for things, and to make some bold predictions for 2022. We said it before, man. I'm calling it 1,000 subscribers. You already know on the YouTube fam. I'm calling it now. But also, man, we're gonna see. This was a year of champions losing it in the 5th round. I think this is going to be 2023 is going to be the year of champions losing it in the 1st round, man. We're going to see a lot of knockouts. We're going to see a lot of pressure. We're going to see a lot more finishes coming into this year, and I think it's just going to make the sport grow even more, man. What do you think, Derick, about my claims? Or do you have a couple claims yourself? What do you think?
I think you're pretty much on par in regards to most of the things that you have been saying ultimately, right? I think that this is the year we're going to see a lot more retirements from the old guard, the former generation, the one that we grew up on, the one we know and love. All of the OGs, I think at this point, they're all going to be making their way out, either getting retired by no choice by their opponents, or literally just being like, dude, you know what? I think we're going to have to call it quits, man. Look at, honestly, we had a lot of retirements this past year, and the divisions are shaken up. I will say this, man, that new front of up and coming, young guns that are really killing it, man, we're going to see some new champions this year. We're definitely going to see some new champions. I think that the welterweight championship is up for grabs. Light heavyweight is clearly up for grabs because it's the vacant title right now. Heavyweight title, I think it's going to be up for grabs. I think we might see Francis Ngannou retire this year. That's going to be one of my bold claims. And think about it, just context-wise, think about it, right? At this point, this dude isn't getting paid enough, contractual issues all day. You have a suite of heavyweights right now who are really ready to take action and take over that belt. You have the Cyril Gahns of the world. You still got the Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall coming back, all that good stuff. Go ahead. What's up? What you got?
Do we see John Jones fight in 2023, Derick? Because I think that's another shakeup for the heavyweights. I'm saying no, man. I'm with you, Derick. I'm saying no. I think the media will fizzle out a little bit, but we might. I don't know.
The media's already fizzled out, man. No one cares anymore. You haven't fought in 3 years, bro. The same like Conor McGregor. All right, come back. If you want to fight, come back and fight, and then we'll assess.
The only one keeping him alive is Uncle Chael, and it's just by a thread.
And that's what I'm saying. So lots of bold predictions, but the number one bold prediction that I have, 750 subscribers at the minimum. But we're really aiming for that 1,000 subscribers right there. We cannot do it without you guys. If you're looking for the premier analysis for mixed martial arts, if you're looking for your premier wagering platform where you could definitely make you some money on the money lines, on the prop bets, all of that fun stuff, you need to come to the Bloody Water Podcast. You could hit us up at bloodywaterpodcast.com. You could hit us up on YouTube. Just type in Free Thinkers Club or Bloody Water Podcast. But we're going to make a very clear and more present effort, AJ, right, this year to be more active on social media. So folks, hit us up on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast and on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod. You can follow my man AJ at Santa Fe Bomber across the board. You want to give me a follow, give me a follow at D496. But AJ, talk to the people about your streaming efforts this year and how you're going to be ramping it up in 2023.
Man, like you said, Derick, ramping it up heavy, folks, Monday through Wednesday. And in fact, if we can finish the show a little early on Thursdays, man, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, your boy's going to be streaming, breaking fights down, playing a little bit of video games, just here hanging out with the homies. So come join me, man. Type in. I'm one follow away from hitting my 30 subscriber goal, trying to get up to 50 mark. So if we can get you over there, man, do it. Santa Fe Bomber, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. Follow us on any socials or websites, wherever you go. There's going to be tags. Just make sure you hit the follow button, help your boy get down. And then any fights are going on that we can make it, man. We're trying to set up this thing so we can be doing it consistently and getting you the most content possible. So if you want a live look, you want a little bit of breakdown, and you want to communicate, you want to engage in things, and if you have a comment on the show, man, those are the places to do it so we can make a live action change right then and there, folks. Like I said, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber, Santa Fe Bomber across all media platforms, Bloody Water Podcast. You already know how it goes, folks. Tune in basically Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Thursday. You know, it might be a little wishy-washy, but for sure Monday through Wednesdays. You already know.
That's right. Just know that is the man that is streamlining the forefront of all of our streaming efforts here on the Bloody Water Podcast. Go to him. That is the guy right there. So you heard it here first, folks. But at the end of the day, we ain't got nothing else to talk about, man. We need you guys to get ready for us, because come this Friday, right, we back in action, baby. We're going to have a scheduled post ready to go on the YouTube. So subscribe now. Hit the little notification icon so you can stay in the know. But that's it. Hell of a 2022. I'm looking forward to 2023. That is it for us, folks. And until next time, peace.